And the Somavedic is just like a helping tool that is creating that space, because the body is what is actually doing the healing, is nothing else. It just allows the body to do that.
I'm Luke Story. For the past 22 years, I've been relentlessly committed to my deepest passion, designing the ultimate lifestyle based on the most powerful principles of spirituality, health, psychology, and personal development. The Lifestylist Podcast is a show dedicated to sharing my discoveries and the experts behind them with you. If you follow me on social media, you've no doubt seen me wearing my Blue Blocks glasses. You can find them at blueblocks.com. And if you use the code LIFESTYLIST over there, you're going to save 15% off. So why do I wear these glasses? Well, during the day, even if you're in somewhere that's supposed to be healthy, like let's say a Whole Foods or even the gym, you're probably walking around under the most trash, brain and eye destructive light possible, LED lights, fluorescent lights, etc. So it's really important to protect your eyes and your brain and your melatonin, etc., not only at night, as now many of us are learning, but also during the day. So that's why I have different color Blue Blocks. I'll have the ones that have lenses that are yellow, the ones at night that are more amber or even dark red. Just depends on the time of day. But I love Blue Blocks because they are scientifically valid in that they're blocking out the right spectrum. And they also have really well-made frames that are made in Australia, not like cheap-ass ones made in China. They're going to fall apart, etc. So they're really high quality. Another thing that's very cool is they're now doing prescriptions. So you can get reading glasses or your regular RX glasses by just uploading your script at checkout, and they do the rest. You can also send them your own frames, and they'll make your rad-looking glasses blue blocking. It's very cool. So again, go to blueblocks.com and enter the code LIFESTYLIST to save 15% off. Also, another new product they have that's very cool is something called the Remedy Sleep Mask that you can wear once you take your blue blocking glasses off. Did you know that light hitting your eyes, even when they're closed, is enough to raise blood sugar levels and suppress melatonin? Yeah. So that's why you need a 100% blackout sleep mask. Now, this thing is awesome for travel. There's no eye pressure. It doesn't like smash your eyes like a lot of eye masks do. It gives you complete darkness, and that's guaranteed. And they also have free worldwide shipping, not only for the sleep mask, but also for their glasses. So I would do yourself a favor, hook up some of the glasses and definitely get the Remedy Sleep Mask as well. You can find them at blueblocks.com, and you can save 15% with the code LIFESTYLIST. That's blueblocks.com. People often ask me about my morning routine because, as you may have guessed, it's quite extensive when it comes to priming myself, getting prepped for the day. There's a lot of different practices that I stack within the first hour or two after waking up, and one of them that is very consistent is red light therapy. The natural red light from a Juve unit supercharges your mitochondria in your cells so your body can make more energy. This has all sorts of health benefits, and they're all backed up by thousands of peer-reviewed clinical studies. One of the main things I like it for is that it increases testosterone, and that's been one of the biggest wins for me. I have higher T levels now than I did in my early 40s, which is super cool because having great hormones is a key to longevity. Some of the other core benefits are reducing inflammation and skin health. Yep, that's true. Red light therapy actually helps your skin look smoother and fresher. And as we begin to age, of course, you know that your skin quality tends to decline. So Juve is the #1 red light therapy brand for a reason. Their devices are sleek, super cool looking. They're very powerful. They're FDA cleared. And they come in a bunch of different sizes, so you can set them up just about anywhere in order to fit the space that you have and, of course, the budget that you have. It's the single easiest health intervention I do because you essentially just stand in front of it. And newer research is also showing that red light therapy is great for improving women's hormone health, like thyroid production. So it's not just for the dudes and the testosterone, it benefits everyone. So if you want to check it out, which I highly encourage you to do, go to juve.com/Luke. That's JOOVV.com/Luke. Once you get there, you're going to get a special bonus from the team. And of course, there is so much information there to study and learn more about this scientifically validated therapy. That's juve.com/Luke. Ladies and gentlemen, you are in for a real treat today because you're going to be hanging out for about an hour and a half with our guest, Juraj Kocar, or George, as he kindly let me call him because I kept mispronouncing his name. 10 years ago, George was struggling with high blood pressure, chest pain. He had constant dizziness. So like many of us would do, he went to the doctor and he was given pills to treat those symptoms. When he asked the doctor how long he should take them, the doctor said, well, most likely the rest of your life. And thankfully for us and our friend George, a life sentence of pharmaceuticals was not his plan. So he set out to research biohacking, which led him down the deep, dark hole of electromagnetic frequencies, aka EMFs, something we've covered a lot on the show, and finally led to his discovering of this amazing device called the Somavedic, which I'm a huge fan of. He ended up joining the company after the device changed his own life, and now he's the CEO. Look at that. Fate, y'all. Now, there's a lot of devices out there that claim to protect you from EMFs. I'm very dubious of some of them, the little stickers that go on your phone and stuff. I mean, who knows? I try them all. We'll see what works, right? I've talked about the devices that I believe work on the show quite a bit. I've recommended the things that have helped me, but Somavedic approaches this issue a little differently. The Somavedic is a functional and broadly accessible frequency therapy device harmonizing the negative effects of EMF on our bodies by leveraging the principles of controlled release of energy from minerals, that is, semi-precious and precious stones. So it sort of combines Eastern medicine with frequency therapy technology. Now, that might sound a little bit out there, like I'm ready to strap a crystal to my head and move to Sedona, but there's actually been a lot of research validating the properties of minerals and the effect of their specific vibrations on the ambient environment and the human body. Not to mention thousands of years that humans have been using crystals for a variety of purposes. Now, I did a show maybe 2 years ago on crystals, and that one didn't necessarily prompt me to put them all over my house. But when I started to see the connection between using crystals to harmonize your environment, as Somavedic does, I got a little more interested. Now, I don't believe in the efficacy of a product generally until I've used it myself. And I got to say, I'm pretty impressed by these little glowing glass jars these guys make so far, which is why I wanted to get George on the show to teach us exactly how this stuff works. Now, by the end of this interview, my best guess is you're probably like, all right, I want one of these things. So, of course, I managed to work George for a discount. I got you 10% off using the code Luke10. By going to somavedic.com. That's Luke10 at somavedic.com if you guys want to check this out. I'm definitely a fan, as you'll find out as I geek out during this conversation. Speaking of conversation, here's exactly what we talk about. Becoming aware of EMFs without becoming paranoid. It's a delicate balance there. We're all doing our best to find it. The dangers of trying to stick to a very dogmatic and strict diet. Protecting yourself from your phone while still enjoying the use of it. How George, or Juraj, first learned about the Somavedic, and the fascinating story of how it was invented. The reason the Somavedic needs to be plugged in and doesn't just sit there passively like a crystal would on your shelf, how the Somavedic is constructed and why, what is geopathic stress, and how the Somavedic helps relieve the negative effects of it, why neither of us is willing to go through those big creepy millimeter wave sensors at the airport, how to use the Somavedic to restructure your water based on the research of Masaru Emoto, the author of The Hidden Messages of Water, one of my favorite books and some of my favorite research on the nature of water. The other effects of Somavedic in our environment, the nocebo effect, and finally, why I use 3 Somavedic units in my house and 1 in my car and on airplanes and hotels when I travel. As I said, by the end of this, you might want to check it out. So I'm just going to repeat the code. That's somavedic.com. The code is Luke10 if you guys are interested in this. If not, you're just going to listen and learn because this is a fascinating conversation and it brings me great pleasure to be able to sit down and have conversations like this and share them with people like you. Speaking of great conversations, next Tuesday we'll be back with the future of fungi, how mushrooms can save your life and possibly the planet with my friend Julian Mitchell of Life Cycle Mushrooms. And this dude is a wealth of information, great Australian guy. And we do like the deepest dive ever on mushrooms. It's completely insane. I'm excited about that one too. If you want to make sure you don't miss any upcoming episodes of the show, do yourself and me a favor and just subscribe to the Lifestylist podcast. There should be something you can click on the app that you're listening to right now to to make sure that you don't miss any upcoming episodes, not the least of which being the one I just mentioned next Tuesday. It's also a great way for the show to get more downloads, just to be straight up and transparent with you. The way podcasting works on the back end is you're really judged and rated based on the number of your downloads. And the more people that subscribe to your show, the more that particular show is technically downloaded, even if you don't necessarily stop and listen to everyone all the way through. The fact that you downloaded it helps me, and it helps me move up the ranks, which helps me deliver better and better shows to you more often. Speaking of often, I'm averaging about 8 episodes a month now. So I'm really looking forward to sharing more information with you in 2020. I'm committed to finding the truth about health, longevity, biohacking, spirituality, meditation, mindfulness, personal development, all the things we talk about on the show here. It's all about learning ways in which to heal yourself mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically. I'm on the path. You get to come along with me on the path. And for that, I'm so very grateful. Without further delay or ado, let's go ahead and jump into this conversation with our friend George, or Juraj, I think it's called, if you say it right. Enjoy the show. Juraj, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Did I nail the name finally?
Yeah.
Okay,
you got that right.
So you guys, Juraj comes in, and I mean, we've met and we've emailed a lot and stuff like that, but his name is spelled Juraj, which I would be like, yo, Juraj, not that, and not Juraj, but Juraj. And then so after trying a couple of times, he had pity on me. He's like, dude, just call me George. Yeah. It's the same thing. And where are you from, man?
I'm from Slovakia. And last 5 years I've been living in Prague and living and working there. So in Czech Republic. So
got it. Yeah, as we walked into the backyard to go tour the Zen Den, and I was like, yeah, it's getting really cold in LA. And then I just realized where he lives. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, man, it's like 68 tonight. This is brutal. And we went up and had a little tour of the Zen Den. But I got to say, when I showed you the ice bath, you did give me a little... Because I really admire that. Well, because when you are able to do that, like that's, Are you guys into that where you're from? Do you do the saunas and jump in the frozen lake like the Finns?
Yeah, of course, yeah. Or like we do that when you do the sauna and then you just jump in the frozen water or whatever, but not just doing just the frozen water.
Right. See, yeah. It's funny because I have the sauna back there, but I very rarely do them at the same time. I think because it's an infrared sauna.
Yeah.
So it's a different kind of heat. Like the air doesn't really get hot. Whereas if you have a traditional wood burning sauna or one of those barrel saunas that's 220, 240 degrees, like you get hot instantly, and it's much easier to jump in the ice water.
Yeah, exactly.
I digress. We're supposed to be doing a goddamn interview here. What am I doing? Rambling on. Today we're going to be talking about EMFs in our environment and what we can do about them. And this is something I've covered a lot on the show because I'm of the belief that this is really one of the most important issues in terms of not only human health, but also environmental health. Plants, trees, animals. We got bees dropping out of the sky with this 5G thing going on. If we don't have bees, we don't have food. It's a huge issue. So, I'm not like really an activist. I don't get out and do the protest. I just let people know. I think she wants to come up and... You want to have her sit with you?
Sure, no problem.
Okay, because otherwise I'll take her. Oh, Cooks, that's her sign when she wants to come hang out with the guest.
All right.
She hacks the oxytocin in the room.
Yeah,
so
that's great.
Part of my mission is like, cool, let's learn how to meditate. Let's transmute fear, anxiety about these stressors and negative stimuli in our environment. And I think we can Jedi mind trick this stuff a lot through positivity and not living in that limbic system fear response. And we can mitigate by removing as much of it from our environment as we can. And then there's also tools we can use to help harmonize our environment, or in some cases even, shield a room or something like that. So as people listen, they know I've covered this topic a lot. I always want to emphasize, like, don't be in fear, because then it's double jeopardy. Then the EMFs are frying your ass, and you're also getting a stress response of cortisol and adrenaline pumping through your veins all the time, which is probably equally, if not worse, than the EMF itself. Right. So anyway, there's my setup. How did you first become aware of EMFs in general?
It was about 2013. And before that, 2 years before that, I was very, very into conspiracy theories.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
We got to talk off air, bro.
Yeah, I mean, like all of them, the whole package. So, and after that, I get out of that because it was like dark. So yeah, I become aware. Started reading some articles were popping up about the EMF. I didn't pay at first that much attention to that, but then it was like more frequent, and I was just starting to researching it, and find out that there are actually studies, like scientists are against it, that it's not proven to be safe. There are not too many, like there are like no tests or regulatory standards that would show that it has no effects on our bodies. So there was like the great gray area of what it is actually doing and what's the harm on towards us.
So are you someone that's like into health and biohacking and all of this stuff also, or are you just like a normal guy who's sitting around eating Cheetos, watching Czech soccer, and watching conspiracy theory shit on YouTube?
I have my like own story regarding health, because I was quite sick, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, like chest pain. My head was spinning. I feel like really, really bad, and it was from mostly because I was eating a lot like junk food when I was studying at the university. Like like party all night, like all night 6 years. And the doctors just gave me like, here's the pill for the blood pressure, here's the pill for the cholesterol, etc., etc. And at that time, it was around 2011-12, I started to, let's say, wake up or whatever. And I asked them, okay, but how long should I take the pills? And they said like forever. But and I said, like, how do you mean like forever? Like, when will it cure me? Like, no, it's just to lower your blood pressure or whatever, but you have to take it all the time. So I started to doing my own research. It took almost 2 years, because I tried all the supplements you can name, like all of them. And partially they were working, partially. Then I came across Marcus Rothkranz. He's a raw vegan, and I changed my diet like dramatically, like from day one, and because all of a sudden that made sense to me. And what the doctors were not able to cure and heal, and what I was not able, and the drugs were not able to do in 4 years, as I was really struggling, as I changed the diet like quite dramatically, in 5 or 6 months, all like everything was gone, all the symptoms were gone. And then I stayed on that diet for quite some time, and then started basically few years after that, started the process of let's say biohacking or optimizing health. So but this was where it started, like around 2012, when I was trying all the supplements. Then the only thing that really helped me at that time was like dramatic change of food, because like no sugar, no dairy at the time, no white flour, etc., and that helped. And then that was the beginning of my journey.
Yeah, it seems most of us have come into the game of health and wellness because of suffering.
Yeah,
same thing in the realm of spirituality. I meet very few people that are like, I go, how did you get into meditation? Like, I was so happy all the time. I just had such a smooth life. I was always in flow, and my emotions were balanced, and I really had no anxiety or depression. And so I just thought, let me add meditation. It's usually something like that. I'm curious about this. I'm going to just sort of divert from the story here, because I always like the origin story.
Sure.
I too had a lot of health problems earlier in life, and was partying like a rock star without the budget of a rock star, unfortunately. But and then I cleaned up my act, and then I became a vegetarian. I was a vegetarian for around 10 years or something. And for me, it was a real upgrade from the way that I was eating, the fast food and cheap beer. cheap women and fast women and a combination of all those. Ding, bung, bung. It's been a long day, guys. Sorry. I'm losing my shit here a little bit. But then what happened was I got better and then I got worse.
Mm-hmm.
And then my health started to really decline on, I started to realize like, wow, I have a lot of digestive problems and stuff. I don't actually tolerate raw food and a bunch of vegetables very well. And then eventually kind of made my way back into more of a balanced, I guess, kind of a paleo diet. So having done that, I've observed a lot of people that have serious health problems and they'll go do the raw vegan thing and then their symptoms will be alleviated. But then down the road, they start getting sort of other symptoms due to the deficiencies present in that way of eating. Did you find you started to have other problems? In other words, was there kind of a finite period of healing where you got diminishing returns at some point from doing the raw vegan thing?
Yeah, I was on the raw vegan, and that was a very hard time. Well, like imagine I had about like 190 pounds, and at my lowest point, it's I'll go into that because it's like what I was going through. But I don't know, like I'm 193 centimeters. There's like 6'2", something like that. And as I changed the diet, like I started to lose weight very fast because basically like all the negative stuff, all the fat and everything that has built up on the years from the junk food is just like going away. And so I started to lose weight and the lowest point, my weight was about 110 pounds, so like 60 kilos, something like that.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Dude.
And so I was really like scared to look at myself in the mirror.
This
like
is after you had done the raw vegan thing for a while?
Yeah, it was during that period.
Okay.
It was
wow.
during that. I was scared to look at myself in the mirror. But the thing is that what kept me going, how I felt in my mind. And it was very stressful for everybody that was around me because like they tell like he's got cancer, he's sick or whatever. And like the whole like family was really struggling. Everybody like close around me was. And knowing that, I would do now things very differently. But when you want to do something really fast, like there's this extreme like way how to do that. So I knew how I felt before, and I knew how I felt at that time, even though it was scary as shit. But that kept me going, and all of a sudden, I didn't change anything in my diet, but it's like a new body is born in a way, but it just takes some time for the adaptation. So then I started to gain weight naturally with the same diet. Yeah, then it took another year. Yeah, and I was raw vegan for another year when the weight stabilized. And then I was vegetarian and vegan and vegetarian, and sometimes I ate fish. So I stayed on this diet until now. Like I eat sometimes cheese, sometimes fish, like whatever I prefer. But I stay away, of course, from the like sugar and white flour and all of these things.
All the good foods.
Yeah,
My business partner today was going to get coffee at this really nice little bakery, and she's like, "Do you want anything?" I'm like, "Just bring me back a pound of gluten, just straight gluten, just shoot it in my vein." I resisted today, but sometimes it gets me. That sugar and flour, man, there's something about that combination, which I guess would, if you add fat to it, you got a donut, and you pretty much have like the perfect all three food groups. But anyway, so that's interesting. I appreciate the background there, because I might not have asked that, but I'm like, how did you even get into this? So now your health's on point. You're good. You found a way of eating that works for you, which I always recommend to everyone. Just why be dogmatic and like identify who you are as a person based on what you eat. It's just kind of maybe, and I've done it, but perhaps a shallow way to self-identify is like what kind of fuel you put in the engine. It's like do whatever works.
Yeah, exactly. And I was so dogmatic about at that time. I try like no man, no, don't eat that. You have to eat it. This was like 1 year period or even 2 years with the conspiracies, with the food, and it cost me such a huge amount of energy to try to like make people think different, and there's no way how you can do that. And I've learned the lesson, and I like remember it very, very well. So now when I'm talking to someone, like, yeah, if you feel okay, like there's no need to change. When you don't feel like, then try out things, what works or not. So I'm not, but I used to be very dogmatic. Now I'm just like open, like whatever suits you.
Yeah, I think that's a healthy way to be, just from a psychological standpoint. And also, I do think that at different times when we come to these crises points and we're falling apart, that going on the carnivore diet is probably a great idea. Going raw vegan is probably a great idea for a period of time to alleviate the symptoms. And they're almost like an elimination diet too. I mean, specifically the carnivore diet I see is like, that's a perfect elimination diet. Salt and meat. And, you know, some lard or whatever, you know, it's like, cool. Maybe you throw some ghee in there if you want to get crazy, but that's a really good way to kind of clean the slate and then figure out, oh shit, I added bell peppers and now I'm like crapping my pants. Well, maybe don't eat bell peppers, you know? And the same thing kind of for the raw vegan thing. And I think that's what happened for me as a vegetarian, is I went so extreme and was the same way. Like we'd be out at dinner and I didn't always say anything, but I'd just be judging everything on everyone's plates.
The judging was a huge part.
And people feel that. And, you know, especially it's really not good for dating when you're, you know, you're in a relationship and you're bitching about what the other person eats. It's like, mind your own business. I think sometimes that's a little bit, with a plant-based perspective, unfortunately, I think sometimes, probably because we love animals and there's that, the humanity element of it, is that there is a lot of policing of other people's behavior and telling other people what to do, which has the inverse effect on the human psyche. If you tell the average human what to do or not do, they're going to do the opposite, because we don't like to be controlled. Everyone inherently likes to have a sense of autonomy and personal freedom, you know? And so anyway, this isn't even supposed to be a show about food. So you're well now, you figured it out. Looks like you put on a little weight. You're still a thin guy. You look healthy to me.
I am. I mean, I'm I don't know the name of the type of the like
ectomorph.
Yeah, probably. Because there's like, I have to exercise to gain weight, which is quite simple. When I started exercising, like I started gain quite fast. So that's nice. It's just sometimes, I'm
the kind of ectomorph that has a much easier time gaining weight. Only problem is, when I get fat, I wish it would just be evenly distributed. You know, like, can I just have fat shoulders too? It's like, no, I look totally thin and pretty fit, except right around the middle. It's just like there's some DNA code that's like, let's just concentrate the fat right around the waist. Let's get into EMFs, dude. Okay, so you got your you got your own health sorted out. Then you're getting into the conspiracy theory stuff. And that's what led you, more so than learning about alternative health and healing, was really around the conspiracy of cell phones and the data being hidden. And there's no safety studies and it's all a bunch of bullshit. Yeah. Because big telecommunications, multinational corporations don't make products that are good for you. They make products that make our communication faster and more convenient, because that's what the consumer wants, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that oftentimes, because they also want to be profitable and keep their shareholders happy, that they've been known to hide data and suppress information that would indicate that some of the things that they're putting in our environment are not in fact healthy. And this is where we are now with 5G. I mean, thankfully there's a lot of public awareness, but these powers are so behemoth that I think, even though we're like, hey, can we just test this stuff for safety? It's coming out so fast, we can't really do much about it. So at what point did you start to become aware that there were technologies and things being developed that could help harmonize our environment or protect us from EMFs?
Yeah, it was actually not that long ago. It was about 3 years ago. So when, as I said, as I was watching, like popping up all these articles, then I like done a small research on different devices that could mitigate that. But then, because I felt well. Like nobody in our family, I was that time, nobody at that time had any problems. So there was no need to go deeper. I knew about it. Like you know about it. You don't like it has any like direct effects. You sleep well, like you feel okay. So there was no need to do that. But how I came later more connected to the Somavedic was a bit there was a bit different story connected with I forgot the word, with the sacred geometry. But yeah, it's right. That was before I knew about Somavedic. That was like it is an interesting story.
So when I started finding out about the dangers of cell phones and EMF and stuff, a lot of people were starting to make little pendants that you could wear and little stickers you put on your cell phone. I even have one on my phone now, even though I have my Defender Shield case, which, by the way, plug to Defender Shield. You can get them at lukestory.com/store, but they're awesome. And at first I got my Defender Shield. I was like, oh, I'm old. I have one of those wallet phone cases. Like only old dudes have those. Well, I just own it. But there's also the sticker on there. But I used to have these pendants, and I'd go to the health shows and dudes would be doing muscle testing to show you why you should pay $200 for the little pendant. And it's always been difficult for me because I am pretty new agey, and I am into the energies. I do Kundalini yoga. I meditate. Like I understand there's more here than can be quantified by science, but I've always had a hard time with the mitigation tools available because you can't quantify them other than just, I don't know, man, I think I feel better. Yeah. It's like you get out EMF meters and nothing changes. You're still, it's still going off when you get by a hot spot and stuff. So when you started finding out about some of the different tools, did you find any of those types of things to be effective and helpful at all?
Yeah, well, I was when I saw these like stones, crystals, or like whatever that or dependent, I've never believed that is working. I like said, like how can that work? Because like I use just and maybe I'm wrong, but I just use the logic then. Okay, like it's this big, and when I put it like on my chest and whatever, so it is like diffracting the signal, so the Wi-Fi or the EMF won't go like behind that. It's like serving like a shield. But okay, what about the rest of the body?
Right.
Like what I mean? Like it, of course, when you have like a Wi-Fi and you put like a pendant in front of it, and behind the pendant you put like EMF meter or in between. Then I was like thinking, okay, but like where's the rest? So this is, and I never like in a way like deeply researched this. So I was never into these small pendants, and I don't say like that they don't work. It's just like my trust was not too much there, and I didn't like do that much research on that. But yeah, then there were some other devices working on with different technologies that were emitting things. So emitting frequencies. So there are, then I found different approaches how to do that, which I found more believable and had some kind of testimonials and studies that it is actually working.
Right. I think this is a struggle that many of us have that become aware of EMFs, and we're like, all right, how do we fix it? Well, number one fix is you get rid of all this stuff, and you don't have Wi-Fi in your house, and you make your whole house Faraday cage with shielding paint, and you just go all out, which if I rent this place, but when I own a place, I'll probably do that, just hardwire everything and Faraday the whole shit out, and have my Brian Hoyer from Shielded Healing, a great building biologist expert, come out. But in the meantime, we want to try and find some help with this, but it is really tough to kind of understand some of the different products out there that are just based in the frequency paradigm, which is, quantified in different ways. So what I always tell people, and I'll just say this now, because people ask me all the time if this little sticker works in this pendant. Yeah. I'm like, get all the goddamn sticker, put 15 stickers on your phone, make like a charm necklace out of all the EMF pendants, wear 20 of them. Like, it can't hurt, you know what I mean? But still, as with all due respect to the companies making those things, I am a little dubious, to be honest. And so I don't spend a lot of money on those things. I have found one thing to be really effective, which is called a Blue Shield device. I'm sure you're aware of them. Sure. I interviewed them, and I have my own testing for that has proven that it's effective. And, it's a different thing, different conversation. But other than that, I've not really found anything where I'm like, yes, this thing's working. Fast forward to what you guys do at Somavedic, which is very different than that. But uses, semi-precious stones and precious stones to harmonize the environment. Yeah. And that sounds kooky in a sense, but then I think about, well, wait, what about all the people into crystals? It's like, why are humans so obsessed with crystals, the amethyst and quartz? And I did even a podcast all about crystals, and I learned so much. I'm like, wow, maybe these things are legit. I don't know if like you put a crystal next to your bed, if that's going to get you married. Like, there's some pretty far out stuff with crystals, but historically speaking, there is some relevance of different elements that come from the earth, within the earth, to have an effect on energetic fields. So it's like, I thought that was interesting with you guys, where you have a device that plugs in, but is harnessing some of those energies. So it's kind of like a bit of woo-woo and a bit of science. So that brings me to, how did you find out about Somavedic to begin with, once you started trying to mitigate some of the stuff?
Sure. So to make the long story short, I was with my fiance. She was like doing yoga at her friend's house, and they have a big meditation room. And there was like really tall pyramid inside. It was like 10-foot pyramid.
Cool.
Like open pyramid, of course.
Yeah.
And
was it made of copper?
No, from wood.
Oh,
like
okay.
Wooden, like really solid pyramid, like big pyramid.
Oh, cool.
And there was the in the first third of there was like a bed where you can lay down, and your belly or stomach was right in the middle of the pyramid. And they told me to lay down to try it out. And I read, of course, like when I was into conspiracies, etc. I read lots about pyramids, Egypt, etc., etc. So yeah, I was definitely eager to try it out. So I lay down, and immediately after I closed my eyes, I felt like fireworks were going on. Like I've seen so many colors, so bright. Like it was like another whole different spectrum, which I never experienced in my life before. And I consider myself not very sensitive to these things, but until I don't feel something like physically or see, I don't believe that much in it. So this was like tangible for me enough that wow, this pyramid is really doing something. And then my fiance tried it out, and she said that she felt really like a warm, like a ball inside of her stomach, that there was something like as like moving around. It was very like comforting, very soothing for her, and she said it was very pleasant, and she stayed there or lay down for about like 10 minutes. So this was the experience with the big wooden pyramid. And then, like I said, like I want to have it at home, but at that time we were living in a flat, and like we couldn't fit it. So I needed one that I could just build up and use, and then just put it under the bed. So I was doing my research, like who is making these pyramids, and I found one guy. I visited him. It turns out to be my friend. That I knew like some years ago, and as the reason why I came to his place was to pick up the pyramid, and he had Somavedics all over the place, and then we started talking about like what's the device, what is this doing, and it really like caught my attention. I didn't like there were like 15 of them, but I didn't feel anything. but they caught my attention, the testimonials, the studies, and the really amazing stories he was telling me. I said, like, this is really great. I mean, if this is what it's like, what if he's telling, if this is what he's telling, then it's really amazing, and I want to try it out. So I, instead of the pyramid, I like took home Somavedic, and when I got it home and turned it on, my jaw started buzzing like some kind of electricity would be there, and like for the next 2 or 3 hours, I felt like a bit drunk, like my head was spinning a bit. And then I found out like this is quite typical. Like lots of customers are experiencing some kind of, let's say, detox symptoms. But then and my fiance, she was feeling something in her head, like inside, that was going on. And and the next, like 4 hours after that, I didn't feel anything, and until now, I didn't have any strong like experiences. So this is how it was more than 3 years ago. This was my first experience with Somavedic and the way there.
I thought the story was going to go that you guys procreated under the pyramid and had like the most, you had like a star child baby. Sorry, this is the way my mind works. Totally, off the deep end there. So you didn't, it's the pyramid thing though, I find is really interesting. Of course, obviously the Egyptians and various places around the planet, these pyramids all appeared on different continents at the same time. We can't figure out who built them, how they built them, they defy logic, but also just people now, kind of the new agey woo-woo people making these copper pyramids and wooden pyramids and stuff, and putting different things under them and having the energies of the pyramid get concentrated. There's definitely something to that, as crazy as it might sound. And if it sounds crazy, like, why would these ancient civilizations go through so much trouble? There's something about those shapes. So I have a few around the house. I have one next to my bed that's made out of, I don't know, all these crazy minerals and stuff. But anyway, back to the Somavedic. So tell us a little about the dude that invented these first prototypes. Sure. So who is this guy, and where is he right now? What's he doing?
Yeah, he's in Prague. He's in Czech Republic. His name is Ivan Rybianski. That's a similar story. How the Somavedic was invented is it's out of necessity lots of times. So he was also struggling with health, with his pancreas and some other organs, and the doctors gave him like 2 years until he will be on a wheelchair. So at that point, he started to study Chinese and Ayurvedic medicine and precious stones and minerals and all, just well, not all, but lots of the Eastern like medicine approach. And he was able to heal himself with that knowledge. Then he get together with a guy that was doing devices that were neutralizing the negative effects of geopathogenic zones, the geopathic stress, and he was improving that device, and with crystals and minerals. And then they agreed that they would, just like everybody would continue with the development of each separate devices. So because the very first version, there was like lots of technology, lots of frequency chips emitting frequencies, and just very few like crystals that even like used there. And he decided to go the only precious stones and minerals way. And so the very first like Somavedic that was based just on the precious stones and minerals was designed to neutralize the geopathic stress, because lots of people around him were struggling with it, and the very first unit started to work. So he was continuing with the development, and later he quote unquote like added the EMF protection. So, but it's in a nutshell, it's a combination of Eastern medicine approach with with a frequency therapy technology, something like that. Because inside each of the Somavedic are like real precious stones and minerals and precious metals, which I just explain the background behind it, why he decided to go this road, and why it's different than the other devices.
So his homeboy that he first was working with was interested more in these frequency emitting devices, which is what the Blue Shield is, like a scalar wave thing where it's emitting a frequency that your body finds appealing and resonant. And then the idea is that the energy fields of your body and your meridians resonate with those tones, I guess you could say, or those vibrations, which don't block the EMF, but give your body something to attune to so that they don't attune to the frequencies of your Wi-Fi router, your baby monitor, your garage door opener, all the millions of other sources of EMF. So other dude splits off. Your guy is like, I'm just going with the precious and semi-precious stones. Were the devices always powered, and why are they? What does plugging them in do other than make a pretty light?
Sure.
Does that help emit the frequencies of the stones and whatnot?
Yeah, it is helping. I mean, what you can see right now, the models we have, it's a third generation. I mean, the first generation, it looked very strange, very esoteric. If I would see that somewhere like lying around, I would never like touch it. Like, oh no, that's just
Let alone
too much.
Pay a few $100 for it.
That's just too much for me. So the LEDs were outside, so it like a UFO, and the LEDs were all around, emitting light directly to the environment. So it looked like really strange, but it was like 2011, 2012.
Sure.
That was when the first time when the Somavedics were designed and produced. And so the Somavedic works like it doesn't need to be plugged in to work. Because inside are, as I mentioned, precious stones and minerals, and there are also like minerals that are like supporting each other. So there's no electricity needed for the Somavedic to work. It has about 60% efficiency when it's turned off, but as the minerals inside, there's no way how you can basically clean it, or to recharge on sun, on moon, in water, etc. So we use like technology to amplify and recharge in a way the precious stones and minerals. So. And at the same time, why the LEDs are inside, it's a self-diagnostic tool in a way that, because you would have no way to know if the device is working or not. So the LEDs are there because if something's wrong with the unit, one of the LEDs, there are generally three of them, one of the LEDs goes off. And you can see that right away. There's like a dark spot on the Somavedic. So it's then you know that okay, like something's wrong, and you just send us the unit and we'll exchange it.
Okay, got it. And so for those of you listening and not seeing, I mean, I'm sure we'll have photos of this in the show notes, but basically, I'm trying to think of what it's shaped like. It's like it's like a disc shape, but it's a bit thicker. They're like 2 or 3 inches thick and maybe 6 inches across, and it's kind of like a little fat flying saucer, or like the size of a double Whopper or something, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Don't eat Whoppers, kids, but it's just for reference only. Now, what I'm curious about is there's a couple different models, and one of the amber one that I have is just, it's opaque and shiny and amber color. They're quite attractive and beautiful. And then there's other ones like the Medic Green
Ultra.
Yeah, the Medic Green Ultra is like, it's translucent and it's sort of like a smoked glass kind of finish. And so I was curious, are the minerals like ground up and then made into the glass that forms the shape of it? Or are there actually the stones and minerals and whatnot, like, are they just inside that and we can't see them?
Yeah. So what you are describing is there's the corpus, which is like handmade in like world-renowned glass factory and hand blown in Czech Republic. So like all of those units are like handmade, put together, all of them, the whole process. And so the real precious stones and inside precious stones and minerals that are inside, they are in the so-called heart. It's like a tube, and they are in it. And then the second part is the corpus that that basically you can see, because you can't see the actual precious stones minerals inside. What you can see is and touch it is the corpus, which we use different kinds of admixtures, like ruby, cobalt, uranium oxide, and that makes those colors. But at the same time, it's amplifying like you're using the properties and frequencies of the stone. It's not just like a visual thing that is beautiful. It's all of the design, the color, everything has its purpose. Why it is like it is.
Okay, cool. Thanks for the explanation, because I'm just so curious about the way things work. I always want to take shit apart, but I don't want to break it. So I haven't taken these apart, but I'm like, what's in there? What is it? Going back to the geopathic stress, because I think this is something that's fascinating. And in anticipation of our conversation tonight, I was reminded of geopathic stress because a friend of mine who's from LA, and I've been here 30 years, we talk about this often, that there are certain locations around LA, and I'm sure all over the world, obviously, where different businesses will open shop. There's a building, say, on one specific corner, and we'll watch year after year a business open there, and they will just totally shit the bed and shut down. 6 months later, the building will be vacant for 6 months, year, or whatever. Someone else comes in, remodels. There's a sign out front, big opening party, tanks again, over and over and over. And there's one particular place. It's on, I think it's Gardner and Beverly, right by Erewhon, which is where you can go spend $1,000 on a smoothie. If you're in LA, it's a great place to visit if you want to go broke and be healthy. But right on this corner, it's been a sushi place. It's been this, it's been that, Italian, whatever. And I walked by today. It was like grand opening. I was like, oh God, I should open up a consulting business for anyone that wants to open a business in LA. And I can tell you if that corner sucks or not. So that story is that I think there's something to geopathic stress zones and these ley lines that are under the ground that we can't see that essentially ruin the energy of a location. So give us anything and everything you know about geopathic stress and these, water veins and cracks in the Earth's surface and all this kind of stuff.
That's a funny story that you're mentioning.
Do you know what I'm saying? Have you noticed that in any places where you've lived?
I know of places they just there's a similar story what you're describing. Like people open it and then you just close down and it repeats the cycle all over again.
In this location I'm talking about, you could open up a business where you give away gold bricks for free and it would fail. It's like, it doesn't matter what you put there. I know it's going to fail.
Yeah.
And I feel bad for them. So do you think that has anything to do with geopathic stress?
It could be. It's definitely not one thing, because this is like very strong negative and energetic place or negative energy. So I think it's not just one thing.
Okay.
But definitely the geopathic zones must be quite strong there. So the Chinese they know about this like more than 4,000 years ago. They wrote about this, about the geopathic zones and geopathic stress. And it's what it is actually as you said already, when you have, for example, tectonic plates or like underground river or something that causes movement under the ground, this causes vibrations, and the vibration, of course, rises above the surface. And when you have bed on exactly at that space, that place, or office chair, you are affected by it. And the studies are confirming this already, that it leads to lots of serious illnesses, like these when you have bed or office chair in this zone, you have to do something about it, because in the mid run and long run, it will have quite bad effects on your body. So yes, it's whatever is moving, river, tectonic plates is below the ground. This is what's causing them. And how to find it, there are like different some people or dowsers can find it. There are different approaches how to find out if there's a geopathogenic zone or not.
So when you're talking about dowsers, you're speaking of a person that walks around with these two bars that look essentially like kind of L-shaped coat hangers, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And you walk along holding them just very lightly, and you'll go across. I know this because when I have EMF assessment done here in this house, which for those of you listening, it's a video will come out, maybe even by the time this interview comes out, where I'm going to show it's going to be a huge EMF mini course basically. But you walk with these dowsing rods and they stay straight until you pass one of these geopathic stress lines. Yeah. Then they go boing, and on their own, they start running into each other. It's the weirdest thing. And it looks like the person holding them is doing it. Then you can do it yourself. Yeah. And you're like, you're not moving them. They move themselves. Yeah. It's really spooky. Kind of like working with a pendulum kind of thing.
This is very old technique, like very like thousands of years. Yeah.
And is it not how you find like where to drill a well on a property? Dowsers find water with them or something?
Yes, dowsers. As you said, you can check the EMF like place is negative, but at the same time you can find geopathogenic zones, and you can also find water. Yes. That it's the dowsers are primarily used to find underground rivers where you can do a well or.
So interesting. When I first saw the dowsing rods being used, it was Brian Hoyer, my friend that did the assessment here from Shielded Healing, and we were at Paleo FX in Austin, which would be a great place for you guys, by the way.
We will be there.
Oh, cool. Great.
Yeah,
we'll be partying in Austin.
Yeah.
Every April, Austin, Texas. Barton Springs Pool, man. That's the spot. That's where I'm. Every day after the conference, I'm in that damn water. But anyway, we're in the conference center, and it's all concrete floors. And if you ever see concrete floors, you don't really notice, but they're cracked constantly. There's little cracks all over any concrete, right? And he's like, check this out. And he walks, and then I replicated it, and I didn't even know about the cracks in the ground. But he's like, these are dowsing rods. This is how you look for geopathic stress, kind of fault lines as we've described. And so we're walking, and then all of a sudden they cross and start banging around. And he's like, now you try it. And after a few tries going in different directions, we noticed that every time we crossed a crack in the concrete, these things go crazy. But they were doing it before we knew that it was on the cracks. So it wasn't like a psychosomatic thing where we're like, it's making our fingers move so we can prove a theory. It was doing it. Then we figured out, oh shit, actually every time that happens, there's a crack in the concrete. So it's interesting that it's as if the Earth's crust under the building moves. There's a shift in those tectonic plates. And that creates a crack in the concrete, hundreds of feet or thousands of feet above wherever things are shifting around. It's really, really weird. But what freaked me out was when homie came over and did my EMF assessment. This house is a train wreck, first off. I moved here to get away from EMFs because I came up with my meter and I was like, great, no cell service. I'll take it, ma'am. Lease the house. Then he comes over and there's a bunch of wiring errors in the house. So some of the rooms, and the worst of all spots is right where the bed is. And there's nowhere else to put the bed. There's insane magnetic fields there because of bad wiring in the house, which I figured out. I got an EMF kill switch to turn the power off at night in my bed, which I was dating someone. They're like, you're insane. I'm like, you don't know how to read an EMF meter. You don't want to trust me. You don't want to sleep where there's a 7.4 magnetic field. Like that is, even if you're not paranoid and aware of EMFs, that will make you sick. But what was really disconcerting was in this house right here, he got his dowsing rods, and right across the middle of the bed, those dowsing rods go crazy.
Oh my God.
I'm like, really? And nowhere else in the house. And it's in the bedroom, we went up in the bedroom. It's on the second floor. So I'm like, holy shit. So down underneath this, which is the dining room's under that, then underneath there somewhere, there's like a water vein or something that's, allowing this magnetic field or these energies where the crack in the earth is to come up through the bed. Now, the way that I mitigated that was he has this little pad made by Geopathic that has some magnets or something in it. And if you put that in one specific spot, like right in front of the bed, it clears it. And then you can walk through the dowsing rods and they stay straight. My question to you, if the Somavedic was originally designed just for that, without even a thought of radio frequencies, electric fields, all this other sources of EMF, can you test a geopathic stress zone with dowsing rods and have them go bad, then put the Somavedic on and you're clear?
You could do that, but it won't show because the Somavedic works like a bit different. It's not that it would like shield the zone or from the EMF or geopathic stress. It's creating its own, let's say, coherent like space where your body on a cellular. I knew this word. Like I never had a problem.
No, I got you on cellular. You get me on tectonic. We're even. Okay,
right,
we're good. We're good.
So on the cellular level, your body is not affected by them. So they are still there. It's the same as if you would bring like EMF meter. Like
okay. Okay, got it.
So
got it. Okay.
But if you have a technology that would basically shield or work with the geopathogenic zone or stress, they tend to move and change. And we know this because the first versions of Somavedic, Ivan had to like visit customers and like fine tune the units because the frequencies were changing.
Trippy.
So yes, so these were the first version. So then he like find out the way how to go about it, and it changed. It just changed. Like you don't, because it will change all the time, the frequencies. So yeah, you'll create another like coherent field where it's just, to put it simply, like you're not affected by it.
We'll be right back at you after this brief but important announcement. The show you're listening to would not be possible if it wasn't for support from our friends over at Thrive Probiotic. You can find them at thriveprobiotic.com/Luke. If you're tired of feeling gassy and bloated, like how gross is that? But we have to admit sometimes that happens. You might also be taking probiotics and supplements that suck and actually don't work, and you're just wasting your money. Well, Just Thrive is the solution, my friends. Their probiotic is the first and only 100% all-natural, spore-form, DNA-verified and tested probiotic supplement. As a subject of groundbreaking clinical studies, Just Thrive has demonstrated incomparable effects on the gut and its undeniable connection to the immune system and the brain. What makes these puppies awesome is this: they have 100% survivability, meaning that you take the spore-based probiotics and they actually make it through your GI tract and proliferate and thrive inside you, hence the name Thrive. Get it? They're also vegan, non-GMO, soy-free, dairy-free, sugar-free, salt-free, nut-free, gluten-free, everything free except the stuff that's awesome. They have clinically proven strains for leaky gut, and they're also doing 9 other ongoing human clinical trials at this very moment. So if you don't want to be bloated and be all gassy and leaky gutty and gross, you want to get on the Thrive Probiotics. Here's how you do it. Go to thriveprobiotic.com/Luke. That's thriveprobiotic.com/Luke. Guess what? We got a discount surprise, shocker. The discount's 15% and the code is Luke15. That's thriveprobiotic.com/Luke. The code is Luke15. And I take this stuff every day, and it's been fantastic for my digestion and my overall gut health. So I am super stoked on these guys, and I'm very excited for you to try it out. That's thriveprobiotic.com/Luke. And now back to the interview. Now, subjectively, my experience, I think I've had these things in my house, maybe 3 weeks or something like that. 3-4 weeks. I think they arrived and then I traveled. I did take one with me on recently a trip, which is awesome because I love having stuff that I can put in hotel rooms because they're usually so gnarly. And I'm actually the one that's in my car, I can't wait to take that on the plane because it's got a USB connection.
Yeah.
And I love to freak out all the other people on the planet. I always plug all this shit in. When I go through TSA, they're like, "Sir, really? Again, it's you? Mr. Story, step aside. We need to look in your bag."
Sorry to interrupt. Do you go through the scanners?
Oh, hell no. Millimeter wave scanners?
Yeah.
Oh, hell no.
Okay.
I'm like, dude, you can get, well, I don't want to be too graphic on the show, but I would allow myself to be sexually abused by TSA before I'd walk through one of those things. Put it that way. No, millimeter waves. That's 5G. Yeah. You're walking through a 5G machine.
Yeah, I'm just asking because as I'm in the US, I'm traveling a lot, and I said like, there's no way how I'm going through this, and I always like, so you want to pet down?
Yeah,
so,
millimeter.
I'll prefer that, and they are always like very like why is he doing that? Like, but it was always nice. I mean, like nice it was always fine. Like there's nothing about it. So
those millimeter wave, you guys listening, it's a big cylinder you stand in, and then it goes like spins around you. That's the same millimeter waves is what 5G is. It's a really gnarly thing to do to yourself. Can you like pray through it and still have a good life? Yeah, you'd probably be fine, but why risk it? So I do the TSA pre-check. So I just walk through the regular little, not radar detector, X-ray. Or not X-ray,
it's
what's
a
it called?
detector.
Metal detector.
Yeah,
that's the word I'm looking for.
Metal detector.
So I just walk through the metal detector. And if that's not an option, then I'm like, pull me aside, pat me down, let's do this. So definitely not. Okay, so where do I want to go with this? Okay, so I got one in the car. And I'll be taken on the plane and hotels. But what I did, just because, I got to do it this way, as I said, I plugged all three in the house when I got mine and just put them kind of strategically, one to structure the water, which we're going to talk about, and one near the Wi-Fi router in here, and then one up in the bedroom. And the first night I installed them all, I put all three kind of just to see like if I noticed anything. If I noticed from one, man, I'm really going to notice from three. And the first night I slept 10 hours. Yeah. And that's uncommon. I usually sleep about 7 hours. And I was just out, son. So that was an indication that my nervous system was responding positively. Yeah. And then now, I can't honestly say I really notice anything, but that's partially because I do so many things every day as experiments, and I'm always trying new supplements and this and that. So I would have to like totally clean the slate, live in my house with the Wi-Fi on all the time, take no supplements, don't do any biohacking, no ice baths, no funny business, then plug in one Somavedic, look at my Aura Ring sleep app. You know what I'm saying? I would have to do a more isolated study, but intuitively and based on, and my sleep actually has been really great ever since I put these in the house too. So my first question to you is there any counterindication of overkill of having too many of these in my house? Am I being dumb by having them all plugged in here?
No, you don't need to worry about this at all. As I was visiting like a few years ago, the friend of mine, he had like 15, and he got them stuck upon each other. It was like a tower. So so no, they don't cancel each other out. They don't amplify like each other. Like they just co-live with each other, so it's totally fine to have more, but it's not necessary in terms of the Medic Green Ultra. If you have 15 or 20 Wi-Fis around the house, and I don't know, like BTS towers or whatever, it's still enough. Maybe if you have a large property, you would need two, but that's it. I mean, it was designed to really like to secure like perfect like protection or just more natural state.
And each one of them goes, radiates that energy field 100 feet in all directions, like a sphere,
yes,
right?
Yes, like a sphere that's basically penetrating like the walls and floor. It's like a Wi-Fi, but in a good way.
Right.
You get the signal also like 2 floors above that.
So when mine are on the first floor, they're going down 100 feet. So like any rats in the basement are really happy.
Yeah, they are happy. They are definitely happy.
The earthworms under the house are like, yes, finally. All right. And then what about the element of restructuring water? And my interpretation of that is that, I'm a huge spring water fanatic. As you know, you're drinking some, and I have this whole process. I run my live springwater.com, where I get my spring water. Love those guys. And then I run it through my Vitalizer Plus, which is a vortex machine, which restructures the water. And then I have that in front of a mini Juve red light thing to make exclusion zone water. It's my weird science experiment. But the way I look at it is in nature, how we've evolved, if you want to think of a Paleolithic approach to water, I drink paleo water, but in nature, if you go drink from a spring, that water is being vortexed through the rock and through the matter of earth, right?
Yeah.
And then when it comes out, it's always been moving until you drink it. And so we didn't have the ability to store water in very big containers until a few thousand years ago. So we would have been kind of just drinking from springs and carrying a little bit at a time, storing what we could, right? But that water would never sit too long, because if it did, it starts to grow bacteria and it goes bad. So we've evolved on water that's been structured by its movement through these different cascades of minerals and these rock formations inherent underground where the spring water runs through. So that's kind of my version of that. Is I take spring water that's been sitting around for a few weeks now in my kitchen, and then I run it through a vortex to simulate what would be happening as water travels through earth to get to the mouth of a spring, essentially. So I kind of get the idea of structured water. But tell us how the Somavedic works with water and the work with, I believe, Dr. Emoto's son, and give us the whole water piece, because I'm obsessed with water.
Sure. I mean, the vortexing of the water to structure it is one of the well, I don't want to say all this, one of the first techniques how you can do it, because there are different ways how you can structure water. You can structure it by vortexing and different technologies. We do it the same way as we are neutralizing or harmonizing the EMF effects. It's a contactless. That means whatever water is in that range of the Somavedic that is actually structuring the water, because not all of them are have this capability. Then the water gets affected by the frequencies of the precious stones and minerals, and it gets harmonized and structured. We've done tests. We sent the units to Switzerland, where they were doing in dark labs doing the photos of before and after the water, so you can see the crystal of the water. If before it's a random chaotic structure, and after that it's nice. It looks like a snowflake.
So the photos on your site of the before and after water crystals are from the Somavedic exposure?
Yes.
That's so cool.
Yes, they are from the Somavedic, and it's from the same source of water. They're
right.
Yeah, we just, as I said, we just send them the units, and they've tested it. They've made the photos, and so yeah, it is before and after. It's a tap. It's from tap water.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Which is going to be as unstructured as it possibly
tap water is.
Pretty much anywhere in the world, tap water is going to be very unnatural by the time it gets to your sink. Did I hear something about the inventor working with Dr. Emoto's son or something? What's the deal with that?
Yes. Because there is, as we are on the market since 2011, we have a wide distribution network in Europe and in Japan as well. They really love the Somavedic in Japan. And as we are structuring in a way the unit, it was this year when we've met, or the founder met, forgot the name, but it's a son of Masaru Emoto. And we are basically cooperating with him, and he's got the units as well, and he's quite happy with them. So yes, we've met, or they met, and they are cooperating in Japan. So, and we find this very satisfying in a way that someone like him there, because they were obviously doing their own tests, is confirming that the studies we've done, and that they like the unit. So yeah.
Oh, that's cool. So we'll be able to look forward to seeing some of the results of his testing. So Dr. Emoto's, Cookie's very excited as well. So Dr. Emoto's son carried on his father's research then.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and there's one interesting story, because how Somavedic is basically structuring or how it came to be that it is structuring the water. Because the first experiments were that you had to put specific amount of water next to the unit. That means you had to put there, for example, like a gallon of water for 10 minutes. If it was like more of water or for large periods of times or shorter, the water, it wouldn't get structured. Or if it would stay there longer, it would be too, let's say, bust or like too energized or whatever. It wouldn't have the like good taste.
Really?
Yeah.
It would affect the taste.
Yeah.
Huh?
So these were the very first. It was the very first experiment with the contactless structuring of the water, like just when Somavedic is next to it,
just in the field of the Somavedic.
Yeah. So there's also like R&D behind it, but like different way. So at the end, like Ivan came up with the right combination that you can put like almost any amount of water next to it. It could, and it has to be there for 15 and 20 minutes, or it can be there like a day or two. Like the water stays just 100% like harmonized and structured. There is no ups and downs. But this also had a cycle of development, because it's not something like easy that you put some stones together. Now they are structuring the water.
Right. Well, I figured that because due to the fact that you have quite a few different units at different price points that have different features, that not all of them have that ability to structure the water. And I noticed that. I'm like, what is the difference? So it's the combination through what you just described, that process of sort of trial and error, the combination of what minerals and crystals are in there and mixed with which ones, and the sheer volume of them that indicates the right formula to structure water.
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool. You know, one of the first things that I really started to discover as I researched water was the Hidden Messages in Water by Dr. Emoto. And I found that to be so fascinating and those of you listening, we'll put it in the show notes, but it's essentially this Japanese scientist that would flash freeze different waters from around the world and form them into crystals and then photograph the crystals, right? Which is what's on your site with the Somavedic before and after. And what I found so interesting about that was how different words that he would write on the water, even just speaking 2 glasses of water and then doing the photography on it would change it. So if you were like, F you, water, you suck, the water would be all malformed and ugly crystals. But if you're like, I love you, beautiful water, it would, I mean, it sounds crazy to like, but until you see it. But what really got me was the fact that we're made of 70 to 90% water. And this explains the vibration when you walk in a room and someone's loving and kind and compassionate and you feel really good and you feel healthy and strong, versus walking in a room with, one or more really toxic, emotionally negative people. You feel that. And I think that it's the water crystals in our body that actually respond to that and indicate to us how safe or unsafe our environment is. It's almost like an early warning system for us to know where it serves us to be hanging out vibrationally speaking. Because water is like a sponge, and it has like like the fabric of, as you were mentioning the words, it may be the words, but when you have water next to it, when you are writing it, like it's in your, like, let's say, energy field, and you have like slightly different energy when you are writing this and writing that. So everything, the water is just capturing in it. It has a like great memory, which are lots of documents about how the water is like keeping the memory of whatever you put in the water or you just think. So that's why it works, and that's why you are angry and or whatever. It's working with your whole biology, the whole water of you. That's an interesting take. So homeopathy would kind of be that, where it's taking the imprint of a certain nutrient or something like that, right? Oh, that's so interesting. Yeah, the Dr. Emoto stuff too was crazy. the energy fields of different music. You know, they'd play like Metallica to the water or whatever, and it was just, really, really deformed looking crystals. And then they play Chopin, and it's beautiful. I found that to be so interesting. I probably have that book right there on that shelf. It's one of the mainstays. When I get rid of books, that's not one I get rid of, because when I indoctrinate one of my friends into how wonderful truly natural spring water is, I show them that. I'm like, dude, no filter in the world, no matter how good it is, and there's some good ones out there, is going to make your water look like that.
Yeah.
Until you put it next to a Somavedic. What? Boom.
Yeah, but you can do that. You can do that with your mind, of course, as well. I use that where I'm using it when you are, because obviously, like the research from the Masaru Emoto is showing that. So when you are in a restaurant, you can use that. I mean, like they just pour you the water. You can think about nicely about the glass of water, just few seconds, like really like honestly. And yeah, the water will reflect it, and it will, if you would, I would like bet on it that it would be structured, because it's the same experiments that Masaru Emoto was doing.
Right. And that just led me to the practice of blessing our food. Most food is mostly water also. Like cook a steak for too long and what's left? Not much, because all the water's gone, right? And same could be true of vegetables and all those other foods that don't taste as good as steak. But so blessing our food is maybe kind of structuring the water in that food through positive intention and giving thanks and appreciation for that.
I mean,
gift.
if you are doing it not like on an automatic level, that you are not thinking about it, if you are really mean it in a good way, that you are really like thankful and whatever, then the effect is there. If there's enough, let's say, water in that food, then definitely the effect's there.
That's really cool. Okay, so let's talk about some of the studies that you guys have done, because I find this is where I get really invested in something when, sure, like I notice an effect like, holy shit, I'm sleeping great or something like that. I don't feel as sick on an airplane or on a road trip with these things in my car. But I find some of the studies you guys have done with HRV and live blood cell analysis, and give me some of the experiments that have been done around this technology that have indicated outside of placebo that something is in fact happening, especially due to the fact that an EMF meter is not showing a change, because we're in a different realm of reality. We're dealing with frequency, not with the actual fields themselves.
Yeah, sure. So the first studies that we've done were done in Germany, and it was done with 10 people, 10 patients that spent like specific time in the field of Somavedic, and they were measuring HRV. And it turned out that 8 out of 10 people, their HRV improved. We do have these papers like published, or the study is published, and it's not only HRV, but the circulation improved and lots of other things.
Could you explain what HRV is for the folks at home?
Yes, it's a heart rate variability, and it's in a way like a universal way how to find out, or how to measure in what overall condition your body is. If you are like under lots of stress, or lots of long-term stress, or you have some kind of disease, this is something that the HRV can definitely like show you that there's something is out of alignment. So that's the reason why scientists or biohackers are measuring it.
Yeah, I look at mine every night with my Oura ring to see if different things that I'm doing are affecting. I think my average is like 55. The higher number is better, but the interesting thing about it, from what I understand, is it's not like 55 for me might be high, but 35 might be high for you, or 95 might be your baseline. So you can't really compare people to people, but you can compare your own. When I do wacky stuff and stay up too late, or I'm just in a weird hotel or something, mine will drop to like 35. And I look at it, I'm like, shit, there was a stressor there. To my nervous system is not going parasympathetic to the degree that it would when I'm in my nice cozy home with my chili pad and all the things, that way. So anyway, back to the study, 10 people in Germany. I like that it was in Germany too, because they don't fuck around.
Yeah. And,
if you want precision, Germany's don't do the study in Brazil or somewhere where people are kind of laid back, You want to go where people are like very to the letter, which I believe Germans would be based on the quality of the car that I drive. Love German cars.
Yeah. So another study was
and I love
done,
Brazil too. Shout out to Brazil. What? Rio in the house. I'm just kidding, y'all, but not really. They're very laid back. Or Hawaii. Let's not do the study in Hawaii. Everyone's like, whatever, man.
Well,
I'm going surfing. The study's accurate enough, bro. Okay, sorry. Go on.
No worries. So then they were doing a study with the red blood cells, where they just took the blood, put it under the microscope, and you can see I forgot the what's the word for that, because there's a specific word how it's called when the red blood cells are glued together, basically. And just by staying in the field of Somavedic, it was for 90 minutes. They took another like photographs of the blood. All of the red blood cells were separate. That means there's more oxygen, more flow, and it just like improves blood circulation and everything. So, and you didn't even it's the same if you would drink like a structured water, it would have the same effect on the blood cells in case they are glued together. But in this way, what they were testing it, like they weren't drinking anything. They just stayed in that field.
So there's some photos of these experiments on your site, and it looks like there's someone sitting there, and they have all these electrodes hooked up to them and stuff. And then there's like one where there's a Wi-Fi router next to him. There's another one where there's a cell phone on her head.
Yeah.
And there's these stressors, these like very close proximity EMF sources, and then there's a Somavedic in the room. Does the subject know that the device is there or not there? Like, how do we account? I'm assuming the Germans counted for placebo to where, in other words, like if you set me with the cell phone next to my head and you're like, that thing's protecting you, I'm going to have a different reading based on placebo than if I don't know there's a thing there.
Yes, it's interesting that you are mentioning it. This study that you are describing was done in Slovenia, and they were measuring with 12 patients the protective effects on cell phones and on Wi-Fi's. And with each of the 12 subjects, they knew what the device is doing. They didn't know. There were like three. There was like one group that didn't know nothing. Then there was the second group and the third group. And it was what they found out was and what they are mentioning it there as well is that when they said that the Wi-Fi is radiating, the word radiating, something that in that group the results were worse than with the group where the word radiating was not used. So it's like a nocebo, like a negative opposite of a placebo. So this is like showing us really strong proof that whatever we are, like the beliefs and emotions have a really strong effect on our bodies. But to skip all of this, they prove that it has like positive biological, because they were measuring different biomarkers on the body. So
skin temperature and all kinds of different stuff, right?
Yeah. So it showed that it has like positive effects on our bodies when the unit is around.
And does it have those effects whether or not the person knows the unit's in there or not, and if it's on and all of that? Was there differences there at all?
There were slight differences. Like there are some graphs and numbers. So yeah, there were different differences.
So just based on that, because I love this is something. If there's an added placebo benefit to something, I'm all in. That's great. And the nocebo thing. So if you have subject A and subject B, right, and subject A knows that there's this device there and they believe that it will help them, their scores were going to be more improved than the person whose scores also improved, who didn't know, but they didn't improve as much. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So the combination of placebo and the efficacy of the actual technology together got higher scores.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
This is working as well. But we know, as I mentioned you, as you were walking me around the house, that we have like lots of different testimonials with animals. and plants that is basically showing like rules out the placebo.
Oh,
that,
cool. Tell me some of those, because I love these, because then you don't have the human mind and intention mucking up the results.
Yeah. So like one testimonial with a puppy, a small dog had like digestive problems for weeks, and then they got home the Somavedic, and it just stopped from one day to the other, and quite immediately. And then he started to gain weight again. So this is just one. And today I was having a meeting with one guy here, and he said that he's got a big house. He's got 3 units, but he said he has like 4 or 5 dogs, and he said the behavior changed dramatically of the dogs. They are calmer, they are nicer, they just behave different, better. So and like how a dog would know that there's Somavedic around.
Yeah, of course.
and then there are plants. Some customers notice, especially women, and I saw that as well in our flat in Prague, that the plants grow faster and they bloom longer. Like one plant that's supposed to bloom like for a few weeks was blooming for 2 months. So like these are like different effects or side what's the word for that? Yeah, that it is creating like a field that is good for whatever living is, what alive, whatever
for all
is
biological organisms in the vicinity. That's really interesting. Yeah, there's been some cool tests that I've seen with grounding, where they take 2 identical plants and put them in the same exact window with the same amount of light, and they run a grounding wire that's plugged into the ground outside into one of the plants and not in the other, and it's it's like a 60% improvement in the one that's grounded. Then you think about, it sounds kind of spooky, but then you think about like potted plants. I always trip on this. Plants in nature would never not be grounded. Like this plant here is not grounded. It's just floating in air. So no wonder some of us have the hard time keeping plants together. But I find that interesting when you can see, as you said, there's no placebo. When you see animals and plants responding to different modalities or technologies like that, it's an indicator there's something going on there.
Yeah, definitely.
When I was looking at your site, there's an abundance of testimonials, which I find really interesting, because some of them are like, I had a sore ankle and now my sore ankle's better. And some of them are like, I didn't believe in God and now I meditate every day. It's like some of them are very like psycho-spiritual benefits, and some of them are very physically clinical, in terms of...
there are two doctors. When I was first reading the testimonials that they've sent us, I was really laughing, because it's a totally different wording, different like sentences. It's that it's writing someone that is like a doctor or technician or someone that is very like science based. I have unfortunately no way to prove it or measure it, but I do feel much better. I mean, I can handle more patients. I sleep better. He named there all of these things, but I can't measure it. But this is what I was feeling, and it was interesting because both of the doctors, like they didn't knew each other, said that when they have it in their office, that at the end of the day they feel much better and they have more energy, so they can and they said, so I can handle more patients, so they are more productive. And this is something that I've noticed, was because when I brought like 3 years ago for Somavedic home, as I said, like my jaw was buzzing, and then I didn't feel any effects because we had no problem. So that was it. But then it took another year and a half until I brought the Somavedic to my office. And when you have some kind of environment and when you go there every day and leave at 4, 5, or 6, the energy levels. You are you are not aware of them, but because you are not thinking about it, but you know it. So once I brought the Somavedic there, and I noticed the huge difference when I had to look at the watch, it's 5 o'clock, and I was leaving, and I all of a sudden realized, but I feel just different. I mean, I feel like great. I'm not tired. So this was the exact thing what the doctors were describing. So the energy towards the end of the day when you're in the work.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, you can't measure it, but you know there's a big difference.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Have you taken yours on an airplane?
Yeah, but it was not turned on.
Oh, okay.
It was just in the.
Yeah, I'm curious to try because I don't think I've not flown with one of these yet. The trip that I went on where I brought it to my hotel was in San Diego, and I drove there. I'm like, oh, I got to do this on a plane. What's the deal with? There's some copy on the site about helping with viruses and bacteria and things like that in the body and the environment. What's the deal with that part of it? I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, because everything has its frequencies and vibrations, and when you emit some kind of frequencies, then the environment for viruses and bacteria becomes like hostile, and
right.
Yeah, and then it will take some time, but eventually they will just let's say die. It's like a frequency therapy. So this is to put it simple, in a simple way. This is how it works, because different models have this different strong effect if they are dealing with the viruses and bacteria or not.
That makes sense. There's a device called the AMP coil, which is a kind of a combination of Rife technology and PEMF, and it's very useful for people with Lyme disease and different autoimmune issues and stuff. And I use it mostly just to meditate. It just there's frequencies that just relax your nervous system, which are amazing. My mom has mine right now, so I kind of miss it. But the way the AMP coil works with parasites and bacteria and fungus and viruses and all this stuff is in a similar way. It's like, and I interviewed them and they had to really explain it to me because I'm like, so does it kill them? And they're like, no, it just creates sort of a, you have dysbiosis and stuff in your gut, for example. And so there's an imbalance in the environment and it becomes a friendly sort of fertile soil for bad bacteria, viruses, fungus, etc. And so the AMP coil is essentially creating a harmonious ecosystem inside you, which is inhospitable to the invaders and pathogens, right? So it sounds like it works in a similar way because you're harmonizing the frequencies within the body, and then the bugs that are living there that aren't supposed to be there don't like it there anymore.
Yeah, exactly. This is in a nutshell how it is working with it in a similar way. It's just frequency based. But this brought me to our most recent study, which is definitely worth mentioning because it's really interesting. So two doctors bought the units, and they saw the result. They saw it on their wives and on the plants, and they said let's do a study. They are working in the Balneology Institute. Balneology is something like a spa where you put healing mud on yourself.
Oh, cool.
So that's balneology. And so they want to try out if they could do like a trial, like a big study. So they said they will do first a small one with 10 people and with 2 older people, 10 elderly people, and they were measuring their blood pressure and pulse, and each morning and evening, and they were in the field of the Somavedic, and this was measured for 4 weeks, and the outcome was that basically 10 out of 10 got lower blood pressure on the 3rd and 4th week than in the 1st and the 2nd week, which is quite an achievement when you think of that, like there was no additional like drugs or whatever. So and with 4 of them, even the blood pressure got like almost like normalized in a way, that like really good, like they got really good numbers. So this was like surprise for them and for us as well, because Somavedic was not designed to do this. But
right.
Because how we,
it's like, hey, we're selling a blood pressure machine. Yeah, that's funny.
So how we explain that is that it just basically creates a field, like a coherent field, where your body is supported to heal itself and regenerate faster. So whatever is wrong in your body, it has more energy and basically more energy to work on that. So then that's why people sleep better, their headaches are gone, or they microbiome improves, or digestion, or even blood pressure. So because everybody is different, everybody has something else he's dealing with, and the Somavedic is just like a helping tool that is creating that space where, because the body is what is actually doing the healing, is nothing else. It just allows the body to do that.
That makes sense. So that's a great distinction. So the way we have to think about technologies like this is, especially in relation to EMF, is that it's not that it's removing the stressor. It's not a process of subtraction. It's a process of addition. So it's adding something else there, which doesn't take away the thing that's a negative influence, but rather adding a positive one and giving your body the ability to heal itself and become more resilient.
Yeah.
Rather than blocking it, until we figure out a way someday to still have the technology and block it also, which I personally think that like it's within the realm of possibilities that you could have a Wi-Fi router that like is a Somavedic, wouldn't that be the best thing ever? Is like the cell tower next to your house is like a giant Somavedic making these rad harmonious frequencies and carrying the signal to your fucking smart TV or whatever.
Yeah, then we would have to go back like 100 years when the corporations took over
and started all over. And then you guys would be out of business and that would suck. So maybe not so much.
I wouldn't mind.
No, I know. I know. I'm halfway joking, but it's just like, it's frustrating because I know that there's better ways to do things. But in the meantime, people like you guys are, coming up with cool solutions that it's like kind of, I think now towards the end of this conversation, it's a bit, I'm reframing it as like, oh, this isn't just like an EMF device. This is just something that creates a field within your home or environment that helps you be healthier. And one of the benefits is you're more resilient to the negative stressor of EMF.
Yeah. Not only EMF, like there's geopathic stress. There are lots of different things that are influencing your body. So this is this is how it works. Yeah, it's creating like the field where your body can heal itself faster. It's in more natural place. So it's not.
So we can still live in the big city. What? Woo woo, city time. And we'll feel like we're out in a cave somewhere.
Yeah, because I mean the 5G, that is something that really people have to be aware of. I mean, that's really like a really bad thing. But there are like so many, like majority of people are living in cities, and you have you can turn off the Wi-Fi, you can turn off cell phone, but there is only so much you can do when you are at home or in work. Like you can't affect it in work that much, or at home. But what about the neighbors, all of the Wi-Fis when you turn on the laptop or whatever? So this is a solution solution that for people that just have to stay in that environment. There is no other way. And we definitely, if you can turn off the Wi-Fi or there are other ways, feel free, of course, like do that. But there are so many people that can't do anything about it. So this is for them. Because
one thing that I noticed on your site is that you have a 99 point something customer, positive reviews. Like, what's your return rate on these things? How many people buy them and then they're like, this thing doesn't do shit, I want my money back?
Yeah, we have 60 days money back guarantee, like full refund. So like feel free to test it out for yourself. And I'll just because I'll have to mention one story. We've lent the unit to a chiropractor in San Francisco. And he had it for 5 weeks. And he said sorry guys, I don't feel anything. I was like, okay. And then he continued, but my wife loves it. She sleeps better. Her headaches are gone. Like her mood is better. I'm not giving you the unit back. So, but if it would be only like himself in that house, like he wouldn't say like it's not working, like, but
right.
So this is, and I had a call today with my colleague. She started just 2 weeks ago with in our team, and she's having a Somavedic for 2 weeks as well. And she said, I sleep better. My headaches are gone, which is like great deal for me. And she said, I used to drink a gallon of water a day and I was still thirsty. And now I drink half of it. That water tastes great. It tastes like smooth and silky. And I don't need to drink that much anymore. And I'll just stay hydrated. So there's like a pattern that is repeating again and again what was their testimonials. And coming back to your questions, we get about 1 per 200, like 1 return per 200 purchases. So sometimes even less. So it's really rarely that people return the units.
That's a good sign.
Yeah.
I'm always impressed when people have really low returns, especially when you have a while. And these things, range from like a few $100 to a couple thousand?
Yeah,
if I remember
it's
right.
From 365 to they are perfectly fine for the EMF protection when you are like not obviously in a big city or somewhere around it, and up to 204,000 for the newest, like strongest 5G unit. But the most, like the bestseller and the most versatile unit is the Medigreen Ultra for 850. And basically here in the US we sell like 95% of all orders is just this unit. But it gives you the best let's say power to price ratio. It with that unit is the best one.
See, I find that interesting. If something's a few $100s, if I bought something for a few $100 and I was like, I don't really notice anything, I would probably return it. Like I could think of a lot of other things to do with $800 than have some pretty piece of glass sitting in my closet. You know what I mean? So that's a pretty good, that in itself is a powerful testimonial, just that you have a really low return rate. That's always something I look for with stuff like this, because there are a lot of skeptics that will give something a shot, and if they don't feel anything, I mean, there's going to be a certain percentage of people that are just too lazy to return the damn thing, even though they don't really like it or believe in it. But if you've got some skin in the game and you've dropped a couple or few $100, like you're going to get your money back within a couple months if it's not working. So I think that's pretty cool. I'm stoked that I found you guys, and thank God I went to London, because I happen to be a person who's extremely sensitive to EMF. So I always have my ears up for anything that would remotely help. And so far, I'm impressed. I'm stoked. I'd also just want to say to the people listening, and I'm sure you share this sentiment because we started to touch on it with the nocebo effect, is I'm always kind of teetering the line between EMF awareness and EMF terror. Because I read about 5G and the millimeter waves, and I'm like, this is not good. And then I find myself, driving around cities like being afraid, and that's really not good for your health. So I always want to say to people, I never want to have a show that's like a scare tactic, and especially a scare tactic into buying something. Like if you feel great next to a cell tower, like don't buy any shit, live that best life. Yeah. So it's not about fear, but to me, just having the awareness, like, okay, cool. I'm not going to give too much energy to the fact that there's a lot of stuff in our environment now, in these fields and, in our food supply and water and everything. It's like, okay, let me just be aware of that. Now put the fear aside, stay positive, realize that this is all illusion in one sense anyway. And that we can just take little steps to kind of help mitigate these things. And, when you can afford it, you get something like this, or you shield your room, or you do whatever you can. But to sit around worrying about it and being in fear is a double jeopardy losing proposition. So, that's just something I always like to say, because it was when I interviewed Dave Asprey a couple months ago, he was like, man, your podcast, you're always like spreading fear, with EMF. And I'm like, I'm having a good time. It's just some of this shit does scare me. And I'm always working on it myself to like not be too neurotic about it.
Yeah.
Because I have a tendency to really get anxiety about these things,
Mm-hmm.
especially because I've been harmed by these technologies in the past and have a little bit of mild PTSD, I think, from cell tower sickness and whatnot.
Yeah, it's our philosophy as well as a company. I mean, we don't do any like scare marketing or like we don't talk bad about our competition, because whatever is out there, like we are like thankful for that, because whatever the technology is or a crystal or if it is helping, then great. I mean, it's yeah. I mean, I think that we should start like different approach, and we try to take it. Yeah, like there's enough of like scarcity out there, and we don't want to add to that. We try to go the positive, inspirational way in terms of like testimonials, don't talking bad about others, etc.
Right.
Yeah.
That's funny that you mentioned that, actually, because I didn't really notice that distinction, but I'm just picturing from a marketing perspective. It's Somavedic.com, right? Oh, by the way, you guys, I have it in my notes. I almost forgot to mention it. If you guys want to check this out, Uri gave us a little discount for 10% off. It's Luke 10, Somavedic.com. That's Luke 10, 10% off. And I vouch for these things. I love it. I'm fully drinking the Kool-Aid here. So obviously, because I sat down to do an interview. But you could go to somavedic.com and you guys could literally just have all this like studies of cell phones giving you brain cancer, these cancer clusters, you know, that you can find near schools where like 50 kids got cancer in an unprecedented
I've heard of
proportion.
those.
You know, like your site could be full of stuff that's like fear, buy our shit, fear, buy our shit. And it's actually not like that at all. And I didn't even realize it until you just mentioned, like, that is a pretty cool way of marketing something, because you don't need to do that. It's like anyone out there, if you have something that makes you feel good and improves your life, you can market it like, cool, add this thing to your life and feel awesome.
Yeah.
You don't have to say, if you don't have this thing, you're going to suffer.
Yeah. I mean, we don't, of course, we are like a business company, but we don't want to like go whatever it takes. Like, we don't want to like sell the shit out of it. I mean, just like we have our own way how we want to do it. Yeah.
Right. Well, cool, man. Well, thank you for coming by and sharing your information with me. And thank you for creating these cool devices that look real. Oh, no, shit. Wait, there's one thing. I was like, these devices that look really cool and pretty, which they totally do. However, as you know, and I've talked to you about this, because I'm sure some of my biohacking geek, and I mean that in the most positive sense, you geeks, listeners are going to be like buying this thing and go, what the hell? It emits like a blue light or a green light. Have you considered, and I find this to be a lot of great technologies, like the amp coil, for example, same thing. It's got this really beautiful blue light in it. And when you turn it on in a dark room, it lights up your whole room blue. And I talked to the founder about it, and he was like, what? It's a pretty color. And I was like, oh, you don't get it, dude. Blue light, melatonin, sleep, dog. Have you guys looked into the idea of having a switch where you can change the color, or making units that have a red light or anything like that? Because I know people are going to ask me, I love this thing, Luke, but what about the blue light? So that's part A. Part B, I'm assuming since it goes through walls, you could just set like a little piece of velvet fabric or something over it at night if the light itself, the light emitting from it, bothered you. What I do with mine, the one in here, I'm in my office because I work in here a lot at night. I just put it in the closet next to my router because why not? And I don't even see it, unless I open the closet. So tell me a little bit about the light situation.
So like the units they have like a room temperature. When you touch them, so it's perfectly safe to cover them with like almost anything you find. So like if it's a cloth or a box or whatever, if the light is too bright for you, you can cover it. And at the same time, yes, we are working on this. We most probably won't be changing the colors, but that maybe we'll see. But we just just few days ago, we came up with a way how to turn off the LEDs, but just the LEDs, not the device itself. So you just hover your hand over the Somavedic.
Oh, that's the video you sent me. Right.
Yeah,
You texted me a video and I couldn't tell quite what was going on. Oh, cool.
Yeah. So you just touch it or hover the hand above it and the LEDs goes off. And you do the same and it goes on. So there's this technology where you can choose the intensity by holding the hand and keeping it there. Or you just, when you go just once, then it turns on or off. Just the LEDs.
That sounds kind of like the clapper. Did you guys have that in the Czech Republic where you can turn a light off and on? Yeah. I like it. I've fallen and I can't get up. Well, that's cool. Okay. And the other thing I was wondering, is there a reason why the thing's green? I mean, is it just because it's a pretty color green, it looks nice, and it's a color in nature? Or does the color have anything to do with the effectiveness of it?
The green, there are two reasons. Like the most important, when we are talking about the Medigreen Ultra, why that one is green, there's uranium oxide admixture in it. And Czech Republic is famous for its green glass, like exporting all over the world.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So it's perfectly safe, by the way. It's just green. And at the same, and it has a stronger EMF protection when the uranium oxide admixture is in it, in that glass. It has like the reason why it's there, and at the same time the green light is calming people down, and it was interesting. Just last week there was a colleague of mine sitting in front of me. Because right now I'm in open space here in San Francisco, and when I got back from lunch, he asked me like, "What is this thing on your table?" I said like, "That's Somavedic." Why? It's calming me down. I feel so great around it, and it was like some kind of like like a developer, just doing his work, and it was such a great feedback. Then he was just looking at it. It's calming me down. It's great.
That's hilarious, dude. Well, that's the thing. When I did plug them in here in the dark, I was like kind of bummed because they do emit like a really pretty color at night, but because I'm so blue light informed, I'm like, I know the spectrum of green also shuts down melatonin, not just blue. So I'm like, oh man, it sucks because they actually look really pretty. But adding the feature where you can turn it on and off is cool. And knowing like someone can just throw a freaking towel over it or whatever, and it's not going to, make it any less effective. But I am looking forward to someday, because I love having just bright red lights on at night. I think it'd be super cool someday. Maybe it can be the signature story model, just saying, where it emits like that really nice glow, but it's, an amber color or red or something like that. We
do have a ruby. It's called a ruby, and it's red. It's only red.
Oh, no way.
Yes, we don't have it published yet on our webpage, but it can be purchased. So
right on.
But yeah, it's like red.
Perfect. All right, dude. I'm sold. We nailed it. Thank you so much for coming by.
Thank you for inviting me.
Enjoy your time in California before you get back to the freezing lands where you're from. Thanks, you guys, for listening, checking out another episode of the Lifestylist Podcast. That brings yet another episode of the Lifestylist Podcast to a close. Man, I love having these conversations. I learn so much every time I do an interview. I thought I knew some stuff about EMFs, energy healing, harmonizing the environment, etc. I sit down with someone like homie, and next thing you know, I feel like a poo butt that doesn't know shit. So it's always great to learn more and more. There's so much out there to discover. And on the EMF topic, and I'm sure I said this in the interview, I don't remember everything we talked about, but I really do want to stress that worrying about EMFs and being totally paranoid about them, and this is just advice to myself, to be honest, and if you can take something from it, please do. The paranoia and the fight or flight sort of limbic system trauma loop that can take place when you start to become aware of some of these gnarly things in our environment, I think can be even as bad for you, if not worse, than the original threat. So it's about building awareness and just having a balanced perspective. That said, I also don't think it's very smart to just live in a house that has no protection from EMF whatsoever, because the science is in, The reports are in that these environments are harmful, from the 60 hertz wiring inside the house to the magnetic fields created by faulty wiring like I have in my house. So I have to use the EMF kill switch to shut it down. The dirty electricity that comes from, many cases, the power line, the mains coming into your house, the dirty electricity that your poorly made electronics are producing in the wiring inside your rooms where they're plugged in, to the Wi-Fi routers, the smart devices, the Dyson fans, the Sonos, the cell towers coming through your walls, the 3, 4, 5G. There is some gnarly shit out there, and it is not good for you. So it's like about finding that balance where you're aware of these things, but you don't sit there and worry about them all day. So in closing, my advice to myself and anyone else is just to keep, a moderate, balanced approach to this. And there's some very easy things you can do to mitigate that. Adding devices like the Somavedic to your arsenal are great. There's also the Blue Shield. That's another one I've talked about a lot. I use those in my home, my car, when I travel. If you want to check out the Somavedic, you can go to somavedic.com. We got you a discount code over there. It's Luke10 to save 10% off. That's somavedic.com. The code is Luke10 for 10% off. And then if you want to move beyond that, really the recommendation is always, because people ask me a lot about this stuff because I'm Mr. EMF, is just have a building biologist come screen your house and really find out what you're dealing with. I find that getting the reality check is the first step, is just, having an assessment of what you're working with. It might not be that bad where you live. I mean, there's people that probably live in like a 5G city, but the block they're on isn't being hit with those frequencies. And, you might be sitting there being totally paranoid and losing sleep over it, and your house is relatively low EMF. So you don't really know what you've got until you get a professional to come in. Now, if you live in most major cities, you can hire what's called a building biologist or an EMF specialist to come in with 20, 30 grand worth of equipment and really take readings on your whole house like I did. I'm going to be publishing a video of that soon, by the way. I had Brian Hoyer, who's a great guy and a former guest. He's one of the best building biologists in the world. I had him come over to my house and do a complete screening. It took hours. I think the final video that I'm going to put out is it's like my Ben Greenfield episode, if you saw that. It's basically a 2-hour documentary. We went through every single room with every one of his EMF meters, looked at electric fields, dirty electricity, magnetic fields, radio frequencies, and even geopathic stress, which is one of the things that we talked about in this episode that a lot of EMF people are not aware of. These ley lines and water lines and things that exist under the ground that produce cracks in the crust of the earth that shoot these insanely toxic magnetic fields up through your house. Mine happens to be where? Right under my bed, of course. So I'm dealing with that. But anyway, just as a closing thought, don't be paranoid. And I would save your money on EMF meters. I have some in lukestory.com/store. I use EMF meters when I travel. It's like a great way to discover there might be a Wi-Fi router behind your head. Like sometimes they put them behind the headboard in hotels. So if you have an RF meter, it'll be like, it'll go crazy. So I do, without being like a complete tinfoil hat nut, I do like to keep some meters around. The ones that I have are not, that sophisticated, but they're good enough. You're probably wondering, what are the ones? They're on my site. Just get whatever ones are on there. They're relatively affordable. But when it comes to your home, just trust me, you won't be able to figure it out yourself. It's really complex. It is seriously like crazy shit. Your electrician won't know how to do it. I've tried that. They're like, what? This is fine. I'm leasing this house and we were having some problems with the wiring and stuff. So I had, the landlord bring over her electrician of 20 years. Great guy, very knowledgeable, absolutely licensed, valid guy. He has no idea what dirty electricity is, what EMFs are, electric fields, nothing, nada, zilch, zero. They looked at me like I was nuts when I was like, you guys, there's some bad wiring here and it's creating a magnetic field. They're like, what? What's a magnetic field? It's not what they're trained to do. So get a building biologist. You could hit up Brian Hoyer. You can Google him, you'll find him, or listen to my episode, whichever show that was. If you can't book Brian, because he's not going to be in your city. He goes on tours, but he's also training people now. There are other people out there that do it as well. And at least if you get your house screened, then you can come up with a plan of action. Maybe you throw a Somavedic in there, you throw a blue shield in there. You do things like that. You at least work on shielding your bedroom. I sleep in this little, I'm currently single at the moment, so I can get away with being this fucking weird. But I sleep in this little sleeping bag EMF sheet thing. It's basically like it looks like a sleeping bag, but it's thin like a sheet. And it's a Faraday cage that I got from KTC Labs. I don't think it's publicly available yet, but I showed it again in the Ben Greenfield video. I was showing it to him, and I just kind of cocooned myself up in that, and it feels like just like sleeping in a normal bed. There's nothing different from my perspective, other than I'm just completely shielded from all EMFs when I sleep, and I sleep awesome, and it's freaking dope. So, you could get something like that. I'm sure more of these will come to market. Andreas, who's the German gentleman that made this one for me, he's working on making them commercially available from KTC Labs. I don't think it's out yet. And then you move into the, shielding your bedroom, which is done with shielding paint and shielding fabric that you sew to your curtains. And there's, a pad that you put under a rug under your bed. And you basically just turn your room into a Faraday cage, so none of the signals from outside can get in, and none of the electrical or magnetic fields coming off the wiring inside your bedroom, protrude into your sleeping or hanging out or living space. And that's like, to me, the first place to start. Or actually, maybe if you have kids, I would do your kids' room first, then your room. And especially if you have a baby. And by the way, don't use a baby monitor. Just throwing that out there. They're super gnarly, radiation wise. Like, you'd hire a nanny to like sleep with your kid. Or, whatever you can do. Anything is better than having a baby monitor in the room. Google it. You'll find out. You're going to have to get through some censorship because Google is fucking evil. But, baby monitors are gnar. They might even have some now that are, low EMF or non-EMF. I'm sure people are becoming aware. There's definitely a market for these kind of things. And speaking of which, if you are an entrepreneur, man, I'm telling you, the business to get in is EMF protection, whether it's devices like the Somavedic, two that I use on my house. As I said, I have something called the EMF kill switch, which allows me with a remote, just laying in bed, to shut off certain circuits in the house that are nasty and dirty, not the good nasty and dirty. Sometimes you want those circuits on, you know what I'm saying? But no, seriously, the bad wiring in the house. And then I also have a dirty electricity filter that filters the main coming into the house from the street. And then I have a bunch of plug-in filters. You can find all of these at lukestory.com/store under the EMF section. If you're an entrepreneur, man, it's all about EMF clothing, like my Lambs underwear that I wear every day now. They're freaking awesome. I'm waiting for like some cool looking clothes that protect you from EMF that you don't have to look like a crazy person to wear. But I'm telling you, the future is in this, because as public awareness grows, there's going to be a lot more demand for products that can make your living environment safe, man. We have a home to feel safe, right? Like, when I come home, I'm like, it's my home. It's my refuge, man. It's like, it's my happy place. But not so much once you have a building biologist come over and you look at their meters and you're like, oh shit, I'm actually living in a cancer box. I thought it was a house. And again, not to bring fear and paranoia into it, but it's just, this is hard science, so I really want to encourage everyone, like, don't be so worried about what you eat. Like, it's avoiding blue light, getting out in blue light at night, and even during the day, toxic blue light, done shows on it, getting out into nature, and then really dealing with the EMF in your house. Honestly, I think those are of the utmost priority, especially, as I said, if you have young kids or if you're pregnant. The EMFs are not good, dude. So that's my little sermon at the end of this episode. If you're still hearing my voice, you know what that means? That means one thing and one thing only, that you're a super fan of the Lifestylist podcast. And I'm going to tell you this from the pit of my heart. I love you, man, because I feel like you're with me as I sit here alone in my studio giving my little closing speech here. And I know that someone's listening. I know that someone's life is going to change. Even if one person hears this and is like, oh shit, I'm going to get an EMF meter and test my baby monitor. And you're going to do that and go, oh my God, thank God I listened to Luke's podcast. Now my kid is going to be much safer and healthier. It's just, these kind of things are not common knowledge, but thanks to people like me and others like me, and then advocates and warriors like you, the listener, that get out and share this information in a positive, uplifting, non-paranoid way, really can create waves and open up new opportunities, as I said, for us to be able to enjoy the luxuries of our technologies and not have to suffer so many of the consequences. And my email bell just went off. That's a sign that I need to shut up. But before I do, I'm going to thank our sponsors, because that's just what we do. It's 2020 and they deserve a huge round of applause. The first one, and certainly one of my favorites, would be Blue Blocks. I just talked about blocking blue light. You can go to blueblocks.com. That's BLUBLOX. And use the code Lifestylist there and save 15% off. And what's dope about Blue Blocks is you can send them your prescription and they'll send you blue blocking glasses that are RX, dog. Yes, really cool. You can also send them your own frames. They're in Australia, but they ship worldwide. They're a great company and a really good option to block blue light, not only at night, but you can get the yellow tinted glasses to block toxic blue light during the day, especially if you work in a building that has fluorescent or LED lighting, like really shit, unnatural spectrum of lighting like that. You definitely want to be wearing these during the day too. Next up, we've got Juve, speaking of light, and the opposite of blue light, which is these really potent red healing light devices that Juve makes. Go to joovv.com/Luke. That's JOOVV.com/Luke. Throw the code Luke in at checkout and they're going to send you a free gift. And finally, my friends over at Just Thrive, the probiotic that I've been taking every day for the past few months. It's transformed my gut and I am super stoked. Their probiotic is spore-based. And that's what makes it really unique. There's so much valid science to back up this particular method of probiotic. The idea with the spore is that you can even heat it up. It survives your stomach acids. It survives the heat of your GI tract. It gets inside you. It hatches like some little aliens inside you, which is a great thing. Sounds gross, but this is what you want. And then proliferates in your gut. And, you start getting these really great strains of bacteria firing off in there. And you can find that stuff at thriveprobiotic.com/Luke. The code there is Luke15 for 15% off. That's Thrive Probiotic. Another product they just came out with is an immune support product. I don't have it in front of me, but I went through almost a whole bottle in the past 3 days because I'm kind of staving off like a semi-cold. It's not full on, but there's definitely a little bug trying to creep on my ass. So I'm doing my hyperbaric oxygen chamber. I'm doing my ozone machine. I'm taking the Thrive probiotics, and I'm definitely taking their immune formula, which is awesome. So go to thriveprobiotic.com/Luke. Next week's episode is the future of fungi, depending on how educated you are. And I'm just kidding. I really don't know what the right way is. A bunch of smart people say it different ways. So I'm going to stick with fungi right now, because Paul Stamets says it that way, and he seems pretty smart around the mushrooms. And our guest, Julian Mitchell's no slouch either, dog. Let me tell you, we talk about how mushrooms can save your life and probably the planet. That's on Tuesday. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast. As I said, that's a really important thing you can do to support. If you want to go above and beyond, you can always leave a review. That's really easy to do on the Apple Podcast app now. Just scroll down to the bottom, leave a review, say how awesome it is. 5 stars, boom, click, done. It's really supportive, really helpful of the show. If you want to go next level, you're like, it's 2020. I've been listening to Luke for a while. I want to show some love. Then here's what you do. Just text this episode to like 2 or 3 friends right now. Right now. I'm going to stop talking. You're going to click pause or stop on the player, and you're going to go share, blank, blank, blank. Text a few homies. Tell them how great this episode is so they can protect themselves from the evil EMFs. I'll see you next week.